Hello game fans and welcome to another interview at Game Anglia, and right now I'm speaking to Kim Parker Adcock, and she is the Managing Director of OPM Recruitment. Now OPM Recruitment is not only our main sponsor, but they are one of the key players in video game recruitment. So thank you very much for talking to me today and taking the time to come into my very hot interview room.
It's perfect, it's very cold outside.
Excellent. So really the idea of today's talk is to try and give some new students, to give people who are new to game development just some pointers and some hints about getting into the industry. So really I just want to start off by asking sort of what are the essential ingredients for a game developer CV?
Experience. You've got to tell people what you've actually done. That's what people look for. You know, they don't necessarily look at the number of years. There are still some old-fashioned recruiters who still look at that. But at the end of the day, it's really what you've achieved, and are you any good? You've got to be able to express that and know what's important. So your interests and hobbies can be as interesting to an employer as the actual work you've done. And particularly when you're starting out, if your hobby is downloading engines and reverse engineering them and seeing what else you can create with them, that's going to be massively interesting. I placed somebody years ago who wrote his own plays with his wife, and they ran these role plays at their house, and that's how I placed him with Sony.
Right, okay, wow. And so that kind of leads me on to my second question, where I was saying all these people have come out of university, they've all got the same game development or game design degree. How does one stand out? So you mentioned there, so hobbies and interests. How else can people stand out from the crowd?
It's who you are. You know, there's lots of people who could come on a games design course or come on a games programming course or want to go into games analytics, but some people work harder at it than others. Some people just want to come and do it because it's a degree that says games, and some people really mean it as a career. And I'm delighted that I'm seeing at the moment some real entrepreneurs coming out. They're all getting together, they're colluding, they're setting up their own little game teams while they're at uni, and then there'll be a team that specialise in the audio, and they collude with them. And Gamescom this year was fascinating to me to find out how many people were getting together and doing their own thing while at uni, not just so they had something to show to employers, but also because they're going to get it published and they actually know they can do this and get a game out there, and they're learning as they go.
Okay, oh excellent. And so how important are sort of game jam submissions and almost starter games? How important are those on a CV? Would you advise people to put game jam submissions?
Absolutely, yeah. Anything that you can show that you are going the extra mile because you really want the job. This is an industry of passion. If you don't have that passion and you can't express it and you haven't proved that you've used it, it's very difficult for an employer to say, yeah, okay, well we'll just employ you and give you money out of our own back pockets in the hope that you can maybe do this. So anything that you've done to say, yeah, I really mean this. There's an old saying, if it's important, you find a way. If it's not, you find an excuse.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. So, okay, so they've got the CV, it's got the game jams, it's got their special extra magic on there. They've landed the interview. What kind of interview tips would you give a budding game developer when he finally gets in front of the studio? First
of all, relax. The people in the room are not going to sit and drip water on your head and put a spotlight in your face like you guys have done to me today. They're not going to do that. They want you to be successful. Their job as an interviewer is to bring out the best in you. So I would write your CV and have each section finish with your achievements. And bullet point it so they're conversation pieces, because a CV is a conversation piece. It's not, nobody should ever judge you just on your CV. You've got to use your CV as a tool to get them to ask you the questions that enable you to show off what you're really good at and who you are.
Right, so what kind of questions would you advise them to ask, or the game developer? What should they ask the studio in return, and what kind of?
I think it's what's important to them. I think when you're trying to get your first job, you're not quite, beggars can't be choosers, but you have got to accept that you may not land your dream job in your first interview. You may accept that you have to actually apply to 100 companies to get 5 responses to get 1 interview. It's tough out there. Everybody wants to work in games. So you've got to give yourself every chance to stand out. And I think if you don't go in with any questions, then they're going to think you're not that bothered. Do your research. Go in prepared. know who you are interviewing with, get their name, look at their history, check them out on LinkedIn, check out to see if they've got a portfolio online.
Yeah, what's the culture?
Yeah, what's the culture exactly? Because some cultures will suit some people better than others, and fit these days. I mean, it used to be something people would just say they're not the right fit, and we'd never quite understand why somebody didn't go there. The cultures of these companies are really quite unique, and you've got to fit in with the people that they are. We work with some companies that just make football games. Clearly, you've got to be a football fan.
Yeah.
You could be the best coder in the world, but if you're not into the product, it's not going to work for you.
Okay. And so you see it from the other side. So they've had their interview, and then the studio call you up with feedback on the candidate.
Yeah.
What are common mistakes that people going into these interviews tend to do?
Being unprepared, being too nervous. And that's really difficult. I mean, I've interviewed somebody who's still with me, he's been with me 10 years, and his first interview, he visibly shook through the whole thing. His second interview was completely different, and he got the job, and yet he had 2.5 years experience. So I think you've got to relax, be your true self, don't blag it, don't try and say that you can do things that you can't. Be nice, be humble, and if it doesn't look like it's going your way, ask for feedback. But certainly, and ask what you should be doing to get it right next time. No is only no today. You could always go back to that company. Don't burn the bridge.
Yeah.
Don't get hacked off and write to them later and tell them they're wrong and they're idiots. Don't burn the bridge. Make sure that you could one day go back there and they'll remember you for the right reasons.
Okay. And so you've seen a lot of different CVs over the years. How important do you think having blogs or YouTube channels are for getting a job in the industry?
It all demonstrates your passion. It all demonstrates that this is something that's really important to you. This isn't just a job at Sainsbury's. Even testing jobs these days, it is a career choice. It's not just a foothold to be the next stepping stone to the job that you really want. You've got to decide what you're good at, and I think listen to the feedback, get as much feedback as you can, and YouTube and putting things on ArtStation, etc. Perfect. You can get people to actually tell you what they think, and ask. Don't be afraid, and don't be hurt by people's comments. Use it constructively, get the feedback that you can, and then do something with it.
Okay, that's excellent. So I heard the term marketing first approach to game development, where people just being good at coding or being good at designing is not enough anymore. Now you've got to be in marketing and marketing yourself and marketing your things. How important do you think that is?
I think it is. It's the commercial element. And I was actually speaking to one of the lecturers from Suffolk University last night about this, and he was saying that they have to teach them now to be commercially aware. That it's all very nice to make a game that you would like to play. If you don't have if you have a particular niche or quirk that you like to play, then you're not going to sell it to many other people. So I think there is a commercial element to it, but these days I have to say, certainly coders, if you're a good coder, you're going to get a job. It's that simple. You can't do it without that. And within a team and within a company, you would skill mix. So you may find people that gravitate more towards the being commercially aware and more the project management side, and they can then guide the people who are the pure creatives. If you left it to a game designer frequently to tell you when the game was done. I have a friend who took 7 years to not finish a game, which was subsequently canned. That was many years ago, where you might think you could pay enough in marketing and it would just sell. Well, if you never bring it out, it's not going to go anywhere.
It's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So what kind of advice would you give to somebody who has a non-game related job that kind of wants to get into the industry? Because I say that people will get out of university, and if they don't land that first interview, then they might end up either in McDonald's, or they might end up just coding websites or somewhere else in a different industry. But then all of a sudden they want to move back over. What kind of advice would you give for people who work in non-game related jobs?
Keep working on your portfolio. It's never too soon to start, and you should never ever stop working on your portfolio. We have personal portfolios from people who have got AAA games on their CV already, been in the industry 10 years. The next game that they want to go and do, or the next job they apply for, may not be the same as the game that they've already done. Helps having a published product on their CV, but they've still got to show what they can actually do and what they like to do. And what you like to do is often what you're good at. So I think you constantly work on yourself and you constantly demonstrate. It has to be demonstrable. Nobody's just going to go, we'll take a chance on you. So yeah, I mean, I think you've got to, use your social media to promote that. You mentioned YouTube, and I've mentioned ArtStation and such places. Use those, because even if you've got a full-time job, you can always find some time to keep in touch with games. Look at the trade press, look at Twitch, keep in touch with the people that you want to watch in esports, and that will keep you up to date.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. Okay, so we've taken this journey, we've tidied up our CV, we've done the first interview, we've shown our passion, we've marketed as much as we can, so they've got the second interview. How do you make the second interview more better than the first one? How do you make it, I don't know, almost like a project meeting? How do you get under the skin of the developers for that second interview?
Firstly, ask them. Obviously we're an agency, so we represent people, so we can find out from the client what it is they really want to get out of this second interview. Why have you been invited back? Is it just part of their process? Do they have boxes to tick? Or is there a question over your ability? Or is it that actually they think there's something else on your CV that they can use that they hadn't thought of before? So I think first and foremost, don't be afraid to ask. What's the meaning of this interview? What is it that you want to get out of it? Is there any preparation I should do? What's the dress code for the second interview? That's one of the biggest questions that we get asked, is what should I wear? You've got to be relaxed, but be your authentic self. Don't feel you have to change anything. And remember, the second interview is probably when you want to see if they're ready to talk about money. Don't talk about it in the first interview. I had somebody who I decided not to even interview at all because he rang me asking about our commission structure. And if that was the only thing that was important to him, he's not right for my business.
No, that's good advice. Good advice. So you place people all over the world in all the different game studios. Where are particular hotspots at the moment? So just out of university, thinking about moving somewhere in the country, where are the hotspots for the game industry at the moment?
It really varies. I mean, there isn't so much going on in London. I think maybe just because London is so expensive now. There are certainly hotspots around the Midlands still. There are certainly hotspots around the north. Ireland is getting quite big because there's some companies out there, but I think that you'd be surprised at just where some of the smaller companies are, and it's the middle-sized businesses that we find are really where the opportunities are. The big companies, you've got your EAs and your Sonys, your Kings, those kind of companies, but to get in, actually they're not always the best companies to go for. There's obviously Cambridge is a hot spot, but to be honest, the games industry is so big now. You can, as long as you're prepared to relocate. You cannot demand that your job is 5 minutes from your door anymore. Remote working is getting a bit more popular, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
To my absolute frustration. I really do feel that holograms are the way forward. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fantastic. And thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me today.
You're welcome.
It's been lovely to chat and to get all this amazing advice. And so if this video has been useful, then please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back with another interview very soon.